This is Adam Taxon, main administrator of the Daily Beck. Here's something from the show this past Friday, the Glenn Beck Program I'm talking about, obviously, Friday, May 18th. It's a discussion. It's part of a discussion that Glenn Beck and Stu and Pat are having about comments made by Mormon-Bashing of MSNBC and a female guest where they try to use the word hate porn. They try to throw that around and create an impression with the audience for what, as a way of bashing Republicans. And what's really hateful is what Mormon-Bashing is insinuating about Mormons. And for me, this was interesting in a lot of ways because I learned a lot about Mormon history, and I think you might want to as well. So if only for that, this is worthwhile. But of course, I agree with the sentiments Glenn Beck is expressing as well. So enjoy.
Hate porn? The hatred is obvious here, and it's coming from Mormon-Bashing and the left and the press. Mormon-Bashing can't hide his ignorant hatred for Mormonism. I mean, do Republicans really want to talk about it, Martin? I don't know if Republicans do, but I will. Let's start with segregation. The church was never segregated, never. In fact, church members, one of the reasons why it was legal to kill them in Missouri in the 1800s is because they were some of the first abolitionists. They said no man should be a slave. Now, I don't know if the GOP wants to talk about it, but I'll talk about polygamy. It is throughout the Bible. It's ugly. I can't even imagine it. But it's only talked about small characters in the Bible like Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Moses, David, Solomon. Just to name a few minor characters in the Bible. I'll tell you that some of the reasons for it being practiced, it was being practiced by a very small percentage of church members in the 1800s. And you know why? Martin, it's because so many men members of the church had been murdered by mobs who persecuted members of the church many times because they were abolitionists. See, Martin, you might not know this about American history, but about 30% of everybody who was lynched was white. In some cases, those Mormons who were killed, some cases, they were legally killed in every state they resided except for Utah, which when they got there wasn't a state. They were so persecuted that they left the country. They wanted a mountain range in between them and the country. And you know what the first thing they did when they got to this new land? First, they prayed and gave thanks. Second, they said, we have to fill the music with air, or the air with music. We should start a choir. And the third thing they did, they threw a parade and marched through their new non-existent streets with the Constitution and Declaration of Independence and U.S. flags and said, no matter what they have done to us, these principles are true. Oh, it's a... Would you like to talk some more about it, Martin? Because we can. It's interesting to me, Martin, your supposed openness to all forms of love. May I ask, why are you more loving for one person at a time? Why are you so... Why is it that you have this openness to all forms of love? Why would you say when I have to love a group, it's abhorrent? You really want to talk about hate? You want to talk about religion? Well, let's talk about it for a second. Brookings Institute study on faith and politics. When they look at how people feel about Mormons, people are about 4.5 times as many people say they won't vote for a Mormon for president than those who say they won't vote for an African American for president. Think of this. We're so racist, according to you. We're so racist that we only will vote against somebody because they're black, which has nothing to do with the content of their character, has nothing to do with anything. But because they're black, we won't vote for them. That's how racist we are, except we have a black president who had many, in fact, if every white man was racist, he would have never been elected. And that race problem is much, much smaller, in fact, 4.5 times smaller than the problem that we have of religious bigotry. Now, gee, that's strange. Religious bigotry? Why isn't the media fawning all over about the barrier that could break here right now? Why isn't this a historic election? Why is nobody talking about that when polling shows it's a much, much bigger barrier? Why isn't the liberal media for that one? Why is it? Why don't we have the first Mormon president? Why isn't the president saying, look, we've got to be able to break this barrier? It's a historic moment. Why? I'm willing to give him another halo. You really want to talk about religion? Study found, again, from the Brookings Institution, that the more people learn about Mormonism, the more likely they'll be fine with them. They don't want to adopt the religion, but they're fine with them. They're like, oh, okay, well, I don't necessarily agree with you, but you're cool. So maybe, Martin, we should talk about it. Maybe we should. You see, it's ignorance that causes bigotry. And my gosh, you're one of the most ignorant men I've ever met, apparently. Continue to exercise your hate porn ignorance, Martin. And if Romney's great-great-grandfather having multiple wives is disgusting to you, wow, you must be vomiting every night when you think about Barack Obama's father in the 1950s and 60s and 70s. You must be vomiting every single night when you think about him having 3 wives. Oh, but you don't talk about that one, do you? By the way, he only had 3 wives until Barack Obama's mom divorced him. Then he only had 2. You see, Obama's father was a polygamist, Martin. Do you want to talk about that? Or would that be hate porn?